Hi, my name's Aline. Welcome to Lux Lashes and Brow Design's Brow Mapping and Symmetry tutorial. I put this tutorial together to help any brow artist that struggles with mapping their brows using the string method. You can do this method for henna brows, permanent makeup, teaching tutorials, or any makeup applications, or anything that you want. For this tutorial, you'll need a few things. You'll need calipers, a brow ruler, pointed Q-tips, an X-Acto knife or a razor, a wax pencil, a marker, sewing thread, scissors, rubbing alcohol or alcohol pads, or pre-inked thread. Step 1. Prep the skin. Prep the skin with a brow cleanser using a soft bristled brush. This will clean your brow area, removing any dirt, oils, and makeup. You want a nice clean slate. After cleansing with a brow cleanser, dry them with cotton and re-wipe the brows with rubbing alcohol or alcohol wipes. The alcohol will ensure that there's no residue oils left on the skin. These are pre-inked strings. They're very convenient, very affordable. You can get them from this company, Micro Numbing, or you can make your own, which I will be showing you how to using just regular sewing thread that you get from the store. To make your own threads, you'll need a wax pencil, preferably in black, to coat your threads. You want to cut about 10 to 12 inches in length for your thread, about this long. If you're going to make your own, I recommend preparing several of them to have ready in hand. That way it saves yourself time. You can always put them away in a Ziploc and store it for future use when you need them. Now take your wax pencil and unravel about 1 inch or so. That way you can coat your thread. When coating your thread, it will usually cut through the pencil, making indents. So most likely you'll have to cut those off and shave the pencil to a sharp edge for your pre-draw. To sharpen your pencil, you'll need your razor or an X-Acto knife. I find the X-Acto knives are much easier to use and hold. You can get these at the craft stores, convenience stores, or Amazon. To coat your thread, you'll probably want to put on a pair of gloves as it can get a little messy and dirty. To coat your thread, put your thumb on the thread and wax pencil and do a pull through, coating the string. It's like curling a ribbon when we're gift wrapping. So keep coating the thread, making sure it gets fully covered with the wax. You probably want to do about 10 to 20 coats. I like using a colored thread, especially if it's bright, so that way I can see how coated my thread is. You want to coat all the sides. Make sure there's no colored thread peeking through. And then as you're coating your thread, you can see that the string is cutting through your wax pencil. If you have enough wax pencil, designate just one wax pencil just for coating your threads, because most likely it will break at some point. Now we're going to prepare your wax pencil for the pre-draw. You'll need your razor and X-Acto knife and a piece of paper towel. Get your razor, put your finger underneath, and shave the pencil's edge to a plane. Careful not to cut yourself with the razor. Gloves help during this process. Now turn your pencil directly over to the other side and put your finger underneath of that plane and do the same exact thing. You really want to get a really thin edge, the thinnest possible. The reason we want a thin edge is our mapping looks so much cleaner and clearer, especially if you're doing permanent makeup. When getting closer to a thin edge, use short little shaving motions to prevent the tip of the wax pencil from breaking off. The edge of your pencil should look very thin and sharp, just like this. And here's another tip for getting your edge very thin. Take the wax pencil and rub your pencil on the flat side against the paper on both sides. It's like when you're shading while you're coloring. It'll make the edge super sharp. And for permanent makeup, you can do pre-draw hair strokes. See? Can you see that? Look. Nice and thin, sharp. That's the way you want it. See it? So I have cleansed the brows and I made sure there's no oils or residues left on the skin by wiping the brows with alcohol. Now straighten the head, make sure it's nice and straight. Look for the center line. Sometimes you might not be able to see a distinctive bridge of the nose, so you can pinch the bridge to get an idea of where it is and mark it with the wax pencil. If you need to erase or fix any markings, get your pointed Q-tip and wet it with alcohol to correct it. Alcohol dries very fast on the skin, so you don't have to wait for it to dry. Now get your thread, wrap it around your fingers to get a nice grip for marking. Next, we want to mark our symmetry bars. Start from the base of the brows. You'll see where the hair grows. That is where you want to mark your base. Symmetry bar number 1. Now bar 2 is the top of the brow. I go to where you see the top of the brow stop growing. Bar 1 and bar 2 determines how thick you want the brows to be. Next is bar 3. Bar 3 is the highest part of the brow. It is where the peak of your arch is. See that? Bar 1, 2, and 3. Now, remark your center line, extending it up to the forehead. Next, you want to find where you want the head of the brows to begin. It should start at the inner corner of the eyes. Some people will want it to go in closer to their bridge of their nose. Those are personal preferences, but it should never be shorter than the inner corner. For her, her hair grows here, so that's where I'll mark it here. Now take your calipers and measure from the center line to point 1. Now measure the other side and gently mark it with calipers. Most times it'll leave a quick indent where you can go back and mark it with your thread. Now remeasure with the calipers to check for accuracy. You can also look at your shapes. This is where we use geometry. The shapes and angles you created should all look exactly the same in size. So the brows have 5 points. Point 1 is the top beginning of the head. Point 2 is the arch. Point 3 is the tail. The bottom beginning of the head is point 4, and point 5 is the lowest part of your arch, which falls slightly after point 2. Now I like to mark my box coordinates with a marking marker. Towards the end of the video, I will show you what this marker is. Next, see where your tail ends. Take your thread from the side of the nostril to the outer edge of the eye and mark it. Okay, so we have a brow ruler. It is completely optional. You don't really need it, but it does make things a lot faster, especially for finding coordinates. So put your brow ruler on. Make sure you put it on the center line, just like that. See how the center line and point 1 falls exactly in the same places? Now take your string and copy and paste. Point 3, copy that and do the same point to the other side. Now copy and paste your point 2 from one side to the other. After all your points 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are marked, we can now start creating the shape. Take your string and put it on point 1 to point 2 and mark. Point 2 to point 3 and mark. Now point 4 to point 5 and mark. Now this is where you'll learn a trick. You're going to follow the natural bone down here. From point 5, you're gently going to glide your thread to point 3. Gently slide, follow the bone all the way to the tail. When gliding your string, it's only going to let you mark where the natural bone is. You see her natural bone here? You see a shape yet? I'm going to do this again. Lay your thread on this line. This line should always be parallel to the top brow. Now gently press down and glide along that bottom arch to the tail. Okay, so now do the same thing to the other side of the brows. Point 1 to 2, point 2 to 3, and mark. Now point 4 to point 5, line should be parallel. Keep your thread here and use a swooping gliding motion to the tail. See that? It only allows you to follow that natural bone structure. Again, lay your thread on the line, then glide along that brow bone towards the tail. Look at that. See? Now take off your sticker. Always check for symmetry. By checking the arches, take the thread and mark the same lines. Put your thread on the line and mark. See these little triangles? They're exactly the same. This shape right here, exactly the same. The angles here, exactly the same. So you know these arches are the same height. You can do this with any of the bases you want to check. They should all crisscross at the points in the center line. That's how you know they're both symmetrical. If it's not symmetrical, it will not meet at the center point. See the shapes? They're all the same. Now you can mark your points and the coordinates. I like to mark all my coordinates in boxes, like the center line especially, my points 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Do the same thing for the other side of the brow. Remember, anything you do to one side, you're going to mirror and copy to the other side. This marker, once it's dried, give it a minute or two. You can't even wipe it off with water. See that? It's great for pre-drawing for microblading. You can find it at any store that sells L'Oreal. It's a white liquid eyeliner and it works wonders. Now, take your wax pencil and reinforce your drawing. Hold the skin taut. You want it nice and taut so that it gives you a nice, clean, crisp drawing. Use gentle, short strokes. You want to work towards the nose. Keep your pencil upright to avoid any fat lines. Now do the same thing when you get to the upper part of the brow. When you get to the arch, you want to soften your arch. Give it a nice natural look. We don't want any check mark eyebrows. And then you're going to do the same thing for the other side using the same methods. Again, hold the skin nice and taut. You're going to do gentle, short strokes, keeping your wax pencil upright, and work towards the nose. And then your upper eyebrow. When you get to the arch, soften your arch. That way it gives a nice natural look. Work all the way towards the nose. So when you secure your outline, you want to make sure it's nice and clean. If you need to clean it up, take your pointed Q-tip, wet it with some alcohol, and clean up any blurry line. So same thing when gliding along here to clean it up. It'll only allow you to glide along the natural bone structure. So clean up where it's needed. You can even clean on the inner side if you need to. Anything to make that line nice and crisp looking. Okay, now to the other side, the same exact thing. What you do to one side, you do to the other. Okay, so now you have your shape. At this point, you can show your client the shape, make any changes if needed. Then you can clean up the hairs around the shape, shave around here for any permanent makeup or outline out here with concealer if you're going to be doing a powder brow tattoo or a henna brow. You'll be able to see a better outline and contrast that way with concealer. For microblading, I would secure my outline using this marker. Remember to let it dry. On the other brow, I'll show you how to outline right here with concealer. And you can buy this anywhere, and the brighter and thicker, the better it is. I use a angled brush for this. I put a little bit onto my gloves, just like that. You only need a little bit, especially if it's nice and thick. I like to start from the bottom of the brow, just like as if you were highlighting your eyebrows. Go as close as you can to the line without touching it. Now before this concealer step, you normally would shave off any of the hairs that falls outside of your pre-draw, especially for permanent makeup services. For henna, you can clean up after or during your henna process, however you normally do your henna process. So I normally do a little bit of a line, and then I kind of just thicken it out so that I can see my outline much better. The thicker the product, the better it is. You can also use foundation if you want to. I recommend if you use that, get the full coverage as it's usually thicker. That way you can see your outline. Now go back over, thicken out those outlines, just like that. If you accidentally mess up your drawing, just go back over that drawing with your wax pencil and it'll be fine. Okay, there's your brow mapping. Thank you for choosing to enhance your brow mapping techniques with me. I hope you found it educational and you're able to apply it to your brow needs. Tag me with any of your brow mapping pictures. I'd love to see how you're doing.